You're listening to The Big Lift, the podcast of WebTrends Optimize, the CRO solution that enables marketers and developers to maximize the ROI on their digital properties. WebTrends Optimize is a powerful, feature-rich and easy-to-use solution, all delivered within a fixed-price contract with no additional cost for increased functionality ever. During these podcasts, we meet some of the key influencers within the marketing and conversion world to understand their roles and examine their challenges. In today's podcast, I'm talking to Veronika Bodachenko, an experienced conversion rate optimization manager who takes optimization beyond the normal boundaries of CRO. In a world where marketers are having to adapt to the rigors of digital marketing, Veronika believes that there's still a lot to learn outside of A/B testing and CRO, where optimization of the whole digital experience needs to be considered more fully. Veronika, you recently joined the Fitch Group as digital marketing specialist, and prior to that you were a conversion rate optimization manager at BuzzBingo. But I'm really more interested in your work as a digital optimization trainer. What was it that compelled you to get involved with training others, and how did it come about?
Morning, John. Thank you for the invite. I think despite my title at Fitch Group or the one at BuzzBingo, what I do is digital optimization. And the reason why I wanted to train others is because I realized there are a lot of misconceptions around digital optimization. Some call it conversion rate optimization, some call it experimentation. There are other terms out there, but I think the idea is that you have to test and validate everything you do with your product. And there are a lot of so-called gurus. There's a lot of content out there, and a lot of it can be a bit misleading. And I think any company can buy a testing and personalization tool and start running experiments, testing button colors and all sorts of bits and bobs. But personally, I don't think that's the right approach. And I think the most important investment a company can make in terms of CRO or digital optimization is not necessarily in the tool, but in the skills in the team.
So I would agree with you. I think it's a combination of the knowledge, the expertise, and the hypothesis, if you like, the gaining hypothesis as well as the tool itself. So there's a balance, and I think it's probably, I won't say 50-50, but probably more in the experience than in the tool itself. But you've got a couple of accreditations from the CIM and the Institute of Direct and Digital Marketing. Do you believe that those accreditations are an essential part of a marketer's career, or does experience rate more highly?
I think for marketing, yes, certainly I found them incredibly useful. But when it comes to digital optimization, I think that they're not enough. They teach more digital marketing concepts. So that experience, that knowledge is great. But to do proper digital optimization, I think other qualifications are useful. And those are around product management and understanding agile and seeing where validation and experimentation sits within product development.
But are those in a normal environment? Are those not siloed places? So, for instance, those people that are in product marketing or product management don't necessarily understand pure marketing. So is it trying to be able to create a person with lots and lots of expertise in one individual, or do you think that's still separate?
I think, in my view, I think that is exactly the problem. These silos mean that each team sees something as very limited, and then I think companies need someone who understands all these different areas and can support what I call the product-led growth. Let's take an example here. So, say there's a stakeholder in the business and they come up with an idea to change something on the website. Actually, let's be more specific. Let's say they want to replace a big block of text with a carousel, which in a way makes sense, right? Who wants to read a whole lot of text? It just makes it makes sense. Cool. So they
Yeah.
send the story to the product owner, and then the product owner consults with the CRO specialist, and they brief UX to design it. Happy days. Then it gets built as a test, and if it is successful, then the developers would build it and release it to production as sort of the default.
Hmm.
Okay, so far everything sounds great. They followed a robust process and everyone's happy. But this test was deemed successful because it won on one KPI, on the primary KPI. But if that carousel adds, say, I don't know, 1-2 seconds to the load time on mobile, and again, let's suppose that doesn't exceed the performance budget that the devs set, that will actually have a detrimental effect on the SEO score, which in the long run can drive less traffic, and it's going to have an impact on conversion rate, on the user experience, and also, and again, this is just an example, in the long run, it can affect even the retention rate if the site is getting slower. And this is just an example, but it just shows how something that someone does in their area, in one silo, can have a knock-on effect on so many other things. So that's why I think it's really important to have someone who understands all these links.
But if you add more KPIs to a particular test, does that not potentially remove the agileness of being able to do experimentation?
Yeah, it's not necessarily about adding KPIs. It's just, and I'm going to use a buzzword here. It's just having a more holistic view, and understanding if someone gets something changes here, it can impact all these other things, because nowadays it's so difficult to draw the line between CRO and SEO and UX and so on. And especially, I think, with Google, with the Web Vitals, and Google seeing Web Vital is such an important metric for them now, and for SEO and so on. I think it really sent a strong signal in the market. It's not about optimizing for search engines now. It really is about the user experience, because that's what Web Vitals measure. So again, if you think about it, Web Vitals, well, it's the infrastructure team that can have an impact on that, and then it's the developers that have an impact on that, the people who upload stuff on the website, marketers, and so on. All of those things can impact the SEO score and so on. So it's really, really difficult nowadays to think, to really have this kind of siloed view. And
Just taking that a little step further and making a different analogy, I think that's a bit like 3D chess. So if you've ever played chess, chess is a very complicated game on itself, full of strategy, tactics, and all that. But 3D chess is actually having 3 games on the go all at once, potentially. Now, when you look at what we're trying to be able to do in the experimentation world, we're trying to play 3D chess, but trying to make the rules simpler so that it makes more people adopt experimentation to get the best experience for their website and their clients. So I'm thinking that, yes, we have to kind of go into a much more holistic view of what that is, but that needs to be balanced with regard to getting tests done and seeing results and making changes that improve the overall value. So I'm with you on one set, but I can't see that it should be blockading potentially or slowing down elements of experimentation.
oh, absolutely. But I think it's better to run less tests and better planned and researched, rather than running lots of tests and then getting some results that are either misleading or inaccurate, and then changing your product in that way. So then obviously needs to be a balance. You do want to be agile, but at the same time, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing won't affect your product in the long run.
Yeah, I think I'd be definitely in agreement with that. It's definitely about quality versus quantity, and quality should always trump quantity. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. Let me just move on a little bit, because in 2019, the Chartered Institute of Marketing launched a qualification in digital optimization, which covers the strategic implications of developments in the digital environment and their impact on marketing. Now, inside that, one of the topics is digital optimization, but the others are digital insights and digital analytics. Do you believe that every modern marketer needs to have this in depth knowledge to succeed in marketing today?
Well, first of all, I was really excited when the CIM finally recognized digital optimization as a discipline rather than just CRO. But I think that if all marketers nowadays would have such an in-depth knowledge, that would be phenomenal.
Yes,
Um,
they'd be expensive too.
yeah. Realistically, I think it's a lot to expect. And also, in many small companies, marketers are seen as this Swiss Army knife, expected to know and do everything from social to content to whatever, which is difficult, if not impossible. If marketers would get this in-depth knowledge, as I said, I think they would become quite expensive, and we would be in a utopic world. And also, I think that it takes years to gain all these skills. Not to gain, because it's one thing to just attend a course and after 1 week say, okay, I've got a qualification in this. It's a completely different thing to actually do that on a daily basis and learn from your mistakes and see how you can tweak things. Because at the end of the day, we're just people. We're biased. We come up with, for example, all these no-brainer ideas, and I'm guilty of that. I thought that certain things are just no-brainers and we shouldn't even test them, and then
Proved
I
wrong.
yeah, but that's the thing. You have to make mistakes. You have to practice all these things that you learn in courses.
So even running tests, tests that don't succeed with regard to the potential outcome are still good tests.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
we sometimes have challenging conversations with someone. Well, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. No, the test has proven that you shouldn't do what you were thinking of doing. So it's an education process that goes on for years and years and years, especially those people who are new to experimentation and CRO. But one of the things that I've found is I think that the CIM have confused things a little, and they've called the overall qualification digital optimization, but then have an individual unit again called digital optimization around what we would traditionally call CRO or experimentation. So, what does digital optimization mean to you, and how do you think that's different to CRO?
I agree. So I did take this course and to see what it covers, and indeed, the digital optimization module is all about CRO. But as I said, digital optimization definitely involves much more than this. And I think this, again, this whole view that CRO is just hacking and small tweaks um, is quite toxic in a way.
Do you think there's a shift from CRO to digital optimization that's happening now, or do you think that's still somewhere off in the future?
No, I think there definitely is a shift from CRO to digital optimization because, as I said, there is a bigger focus on the user experience. Also, I think in the last year and a half since the pandemic started, well, a year, a lot of CRO agencies, the small independent ones, have been acquired by big agencies, and this I think is a sign that CRO it becomes more important. And I think in the future, yes, there will definitely be a shift, and maybe it's going to even change the way it's called. I don't know, but tomato. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. But people do have to change this view that it just tests small things. And also, I think we have to be more comfortable with failing. This is a big issue, and I've seen it in all my roles where there's as a digital optimization specialist or CRO specialist or whatever you want to call it, you feel like there's pressure from the business to find tests that win,
Yep.
and that defeats the whole purpose of it. And also, there's pressure, especially if the hypotheses come from senior guys in the company. There's pressure to make them look as if they won somehow, and then they ask you to reinterpret the data and so on and so forth. So I think, yeah, when it comes to digital optimization, it's that I hope there will be less pressure. I hope the terminology won't matter as much, but the best practices, the approach, will become the norm.
So it's interesting you mentioned about CRO and the pandemic. I've been looking at companies over the past 12 months which have decided to stop using CRO because of budget constraints. And therefore, I think that we're still in this field that things like PPC, SEO are still gaining budget, whereas CRO is potentially still, I suppose, the poor relation when it comes to investing in the optimization of customers visiting their websites. Would you say that was true, or do you see something different?
Um, I I've seen something slightly different, but that obviously I'm it's very subjective in the way that in the last 12 months the number of recruiters that contacted me on LinkedIn, I mean, I was just overwhelmed. And I don't know if it's the fact that I have more experience now, or if indeed a lot of companies since the pandemic started, they realized they cannot invest more in acquisition, but they wanted to get more bang for their buck. Also, if you think about the companies that decide to stop investing in CRO and instead they shift that budget into acquisition, in my view, unless they have a solid product, a solid website or app, I think that's crazy because most websites are like leaky buckets.
Yes.
So if your website is not absolutely spot on in terms of conversion, then just investing more in acquisition is I think inefficient.
I think we're both singing from the same hymn sheet there, because obviously people want to push more into the funnel, believing that they'll get more out of the funnel, but obviously the economies of doing that is not sustainable. I was really intrigued at a comment you made earlier about marketers being the Swiss Army knife, because I think that a Swiss Army knife is great when you haven't got another tool. So if you're out in the outback somewhere and you're trying to be able to do something, unpick, I don't know what's on a Swiss Army knife these days, but I remember there used to be a little device for getting stones out of horses' shoes. Now, whether that's still there, I don't know. But I think the phrase a Swiss Army knife is great when you haven't got another tool, but when you want to use a screwdriver or a hammer, a Swiss Army knife is no good. And when you want to drill through a big wall, a Swiss Army knife is no good. So you have to have the expertise and the tools that are part of a bigger toolbox, excuse the analogy extension there. But I think that there are more and more, if you like, flavors of this digital optimization, which are coming at us, and I would include the SEO, the UX, the CRO, the site speed, all of those wonderful things are all playing in this kind of precarious balance to try and improve the quality of experience for our customers. And I think that we're still challenged to be able to make sure that we're doing all of the right things. But it seems as though we're trying to play catch up all the time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think nowadays to get specialists who are experts in their areas, um, who have good experience, who are up to date with best practices, um, with the, I don't know, all the different trends, all the different tools out there. It's quite difficult. These specialists are usually, you can find them in companies like Amazon and Uber and so on. So to find really good people for medium-sized companies and small companies is quite difficult. And also, what these companies end up doing a lot of times is they get an agency because they think, okay, we cannot find those skills, so we're just going to hire an agency, and they supposedly should have all the right skills in all these different areas to do what we need. But the problem with the agencies, from what I've seen, is that a lot of times they have too many clients to really allocate the time that is needed to understand the business, to look at all the different, the ins and outs, the intricacies, all the marketing technology stack, to understand how all these different things are integrated. And also, there's another aspect to it. Agencies do not understand, or rarely understand, the politics.
Yeah, that's
And
big. That's a big section, isn't it?
yeah, because the things that can seem the right thing to do and a no-brainer. And I'll give a very basic example here, like submitting your sitemap
Hmm.
um, to search engines. That I've seen that in a company. It took nearly 3 years because it never got prioritized due to other things, due to all the politics, due to all sorts of other non important aspects. And agencies they'll never be able to really embed themselves in a company in that way. So I do believe in-house is definitely better than agencies, but to find the right skill can be quite challenging.
If you were talking to yourself 5, 10 years ago when you left university or whatever, and you were thinking about a career in marketing, would you look at marketing specialization, or would you say actually just cover yourself with as much information as you possibly can, and then later on in your career you can decide to specialize if you wish?
No, I mean, I was quite obsessed with optimization.
You need to get a life.
Um, but I did try. I worked on so many different channels in the beginning. So I wrote content for SEO. I worked in e-commerce. I then worked in mobile marketing. I tried lots of things because I thought it is imperative that I gain this and 360 experience or knowledge. That sounds a bit too fancy, but to try and dip my toes in as many of these channels and learn as much as possible before I can say, okay, this is what I'm really good at. This is what I'm going to specialize in. Um, so yeah, I don't see it working the other way around, because you cannot really specialize in optimization unless you understand the technology, unless you really understand, marketing communications and acquisition, retention, and so on. Because all of these things are so linked. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to optimize things, but not have that knowledge.
So I believe, and I'm not sure whether you do, that we're in danger of adding more confusion in the industry. We initially talked about A/B testing, MVT, then conversion rate optimization or CRO, and that's, if you like, the most common phraseology for experimentation these days. But now we're moving towards digital optimization. In conversations I'm having with clients for the first time about CRO, they're still very confused about what it is because there is all these naming conventions that are out there. Do you think digital optimization is going to just make it more murky?
First of all, I don't blame them for being confused. And I do think that shifting from A/B, MVT testing, CRO to just digital optimization, I think it will bring some clarity in a way. Because as I said, this is not, digital optimization is not zero. It's not just testing the color of buttons and moving the thing from here 3 pixels to the left. And conversion rate experts, by the way, call that garbage in, garbage out. And I couldn't agree more. Because digital optimization covers so much more. Just improving the load time can impact the SEO score, your conversion rate, your retention rate. So for this, for example, the digital optimization specialist has to work with the IT or infrastructure team to improve the hosting or maybe change the architecture, work with the devs to remove unnecessary scripts and so on. So I think digital optimization, even though it's a much broader term, I think it would just make things a bit easier for everyone. Because you don't, like, when you say digital optimization, no, it's someone who comes in, has the knowledge, has the skills to look at all these different things and then create a roadmap, which might not involve only experimentation. There can be a lot of what I call non-testable hypotheses or just best practices.
So where do you see these digital optimization specialists sitting inside the organization? At what level? Because to be able to liaise, instruct the IT department, the devs, the marketing content writers, seems to be that would be a fairly senior position. But that position doesn't sit inside the organization currently, I don't believe.
Yeah, it's a really tricky question. And I think, there probably are lots of opinions on this. To be fair, I don't know what the right answer is, but in my view, I think the digital optimization specialist would have to be, if not necessarily senior, but should have the power to influence senior stakeholders and should work very, very closely with the product owner and head of marketing or head of IT and so on. So maybe the right thing would be digital innovations or just digital product. But I don't think there's a right answer to that.
Because that leads me to the next question. This digital optimization, would that be product optimization and or marketing optimization? And, when you talk about developing new products, product marketing usually gets involved first of all. So do they have to be digitally optimized or have some digital optimization specialization? When you go into marketing, obviously there is a need for digital optimization itself, but it seems like it's not just one person's responsibility, this digital optimization. It's a much broader remit that everybody needs to be thinking digital optimization along the way. And then, therefore, do you think that the course in the CIM is the right place to have a course on digital optimization? Or do you think there should be more technical specifications around digital optimization for UX and product marketing, etc.?
Excellent question. I think what the CIM course focuses on is more what I called marketing optimization. And you're absolutely right. So the way I see it, I sort of split it into product optimization and marketing. So marketing optimization, in my view, covers things such as landing pages, splash pages, pop-ups, overlays, notifications, banners, and so on. It's basically anything that can be easily changed or switched off. It's something that's usually linked to a marketing campaign. Product optimization, on the other hand, covers all the initiatives and the changes that impact the product longer term. So that can be your navigation, your home page, the sign up form, or the payment page. And these are things that shouldn't keep changing every other release. That's why they have to be thoroughly tested. And then, the winner gets built as default. So I think the product optimization, absolutely, you need to have a really good understanding of UX, best practices, product development, agile, technology, and so on. For marketing optimization, you need to have all the understanding of paid, owned, earned media, how to drive traffic, all these different sources of acquisition, how they convert, and so on and so forth. So ideally, the specialist should have knowledge of both. But this is, at the end of the day, it is the teamwork. It should have the support of a product owner, the technical product owner, the head of marketing, and so on. So it is a team effort. But ultimately, there has to be someone who understands both sides of the story.
I'm going to throw one more phrase in there that we've been inundated in the last five years or so, and that's digital transformation. How does digital transformation differ from digital optimization?
Yeah, I heard this before, and I can see why there's quite a bit of confusion around it. So digital transformation, if we think about it, it's the process of using digital technologies to create new or even just modify existing business processes, the culture, the customer experience to meet the changing business and market requirements. And it usually refers to significant changes which happen over the entire business or important areas and take a long time to plan and implement. Digital optimization, on the other hand, is the process of optimizing your digital products in a way that is user-centric, is data-driven, and agile. So it's not about transformation in some distant future, but it's about making small incremental changes that add up over time. And in my mind, I think the word that best describes it is Kaizen, which just means continuous incremental improvements. And this is actually a term quite popular in Kanban and Agile. And of course, digital transformation and digital optimization, they can overlap in certain projects or areas. But I think the skills required for transformation are more in line with business analysis. Whereas for digital optimization, it's more specific around digital marketing and product.
Just one final question, and that's going back to what we covered a little earlier. Do you see that in the future there will be a chief digital optimization director?
Ooh.
Something at a C level?
I surely hope so, but I don't know, to be fair. I definitely see it as a senior role, but I don't think it will be at a C level. I think that's aspirational for me, definitely. But realistically, no. I think Chief Digital Officer, yes, I think that should be standard in all companies nowadays, but digital optimization, that specific, probably not.
Well, Veronica, thank you very much for the time you've extended. And sorry it's so early, but I think it's good to get these things under your belt early in the day. I'd like to be able to review this perhaps in a year and come back to you and see what the adoption has been like from digital optimization, and see whether people are actually becoming titled with digital optimization strategist or whatever it might be that the titles will end up being. But it's been very interesting. I've had a good chat. I've learned a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for the invite.